Hi, everybody. Adrian Fuentes here. Did you know that the Democrats of Greater Tucson has a website, thedgt.org, and if you subscribe, it's only 20 bucks. You can support this great weekly communication where folks get together. Sometimes there's candidates, sometimes folks like me pop on to help understand what's going on in the world. The Democrats of Greater Tucson, thedgt.org. Join up today.
All right, welcome everybody. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start this. I was expecting Joe Danishevsky to show up for this one, but he hasn't showed up yet. So I'm going to go ahead and start. Welcome everybody to this DGT Salon forum for our Arizona Corporation Commission Democratic candidates. We have a full slate right now. I think the stage of the campaign is that they're getting ballot access. So if you have not yet, absolutely 100% go to the Arizona Secretary of State's website and sign into the E-Qual system and sign the petitions for all three Democrats for Arizona Corporation Commission and all your other preferred candidates while you're at it. But anybody in the state of Arizona can sign the three petitions for these candidates. So tonight we have Jonathan Hill, Joshua Polachek, and Yelenia Aguilar, who are running as Democrats for the three seats that are up on the five-person Arizona Corporation Commission. If the three of them can win, that would give us control of the Arizona Corporation Commission. And we're going to talk about what that might mean for Arizona. But first of all, I'm going to go around and have each of the candidates introduce themselves with an eye toward their background and experience that qualifies them for the seat on the Arizona Corporation Commission. 2 or 3 minutes apiece, please. Let's lead off with Joshua Hill.
Joshua Hill or Jonathan?
Sorry, Jonathan Hill. Yeah, too many J's.
Yes, so my name is Jonathan Hill. I'm one of the three candidates running for the State Corporation Commission. My background is mostly in science and engineering. So I work at Arizona State University up here at the Tempe campus. And for the last 18 years, I've been working on a number of space missions that are run out of our department. So I've worked on 2 different Mars orbiters, 2 different Mars rovers, the cute little ones, Spirit and Opportunity, not the new big ones. And then right now, actually, kind of as we speak, I'm working on one that's getting ready to launch to Jupiter in October. So yeah, so I started out in aerospace engineering, and then, when I started working for the Mars group, it was purely in an engineering capacity. And then over time, I just, became more and more interested in the geology side. So I got my master's in aerospace, but then switched and got my PhD in geological sciences, doing mostly remote sensing, which is studying the surface, studying the geology with space images. So.
All right, thanks, John. Let's move on to Yelenia Aguilar.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. So my name is Yelenia Aguilar, and I actually have an interesting background. So never thought that I would be in this position, never thought that I'd be running for anything. I'm formally undocumented. In 2016, I voted for the first time ever and voted for myself. I won my first school board election and then was reelected during the pandemic after serving my first term. And then after that, I ran for the Central Arizona Water Conservation District Board. I'm a representative of Maricopa County. Although I know we have representatives from Pima County, I represent Maricopa County. I actually grew up in Tucson, well, many places. I went to more than 20 different schools, but called Tucson my home. That's where I grew up. That's where I bought my first home. That's where I had my children, but eventually moved to Phoenix, where I currently reside and where I was serving as a school board member and where I represent currently the Central Arizona Water Conservation District Board. So I have 7 years or 8 years now representing the people of Arizona, and it has been the honor of my life. I never thought that I would run for anything. I never thought that I would gain path to citizenship, and once I did, I was able to enter into the advocacy and policy space. And I started off in education and environmental and health space, advocating for different initiatives and different legislation. As of right now, I'm a consultant, so I work with different national organizations. So I do a contract with Moms Clean Air Force, and I advocate for clean air, specifically with school districts, helping school districts apply for the EPA fund so they can have electric buses. And I'm proud to say that the school district where I served for 7 years, next election cycle, once they pass their bond, all of the fleet will be electric. So it started with one bus 6 years ago when I got elected. And now we're almost to all electric buses. And it's an honor to work with Moms Clean Air Force because we share the same values, and I love the work that I do with them. It's been very rewarding. And I spent time working with the tribes. So Hopi Navajo with access to clean drinking water with a technology. So it's similar to a solar panel, but instead of energy, it produces water in the border communities. So Yuma, Nogales, Bisbee, trying to, the unincorporated areas in those areas and then rural areas, trying to give them access to clean drinking water as well. So I've had my share of work, whether it's advocacy or policy work or projects, programs, initiatives. I'm very grateful for the position that I'm in now. I know that it's a privileged position and that I don't just represent my voice and the people of Maricopa County. I represent women and children and immigrants and everything you can imagine. So I don't take my voice and my privilege for granted. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Linnea. And Joshua Polachek.
Hi, my name is Joshua Polachek. I am a Tucson native, like Yelenia. I left when I was in my early 20s to serve in the U.S. Foreign Service. I spent about 20 years in the Foreign Service all across the world. I was in the Caribbean twice, Africa twice, the Middle East twice, and South Asia twice. And I came back to Tucson as a boomerang generation to look after my dad in early 2019. And after his passing, was recruited to run the Pima County Dems in the last presidential cycle. We had our most successful year ever. And I think that's thanks partially to the influence campaign. I'm trying to figure out how to say that in a way that doesn't sound too shady, but the work the State Department used to do overseas and the social marketing campaigns that I used to run as a State Department officer, as a public affairs officer. Since then, we had an incredibly successful year in 2020. I've been helping to build the party locally and statewide since then. I'm a state committee member. And we had we had two powerful candidates running and we needed a full slate. This is, I would say, the single most important Arizona race that we have in 2024 is flipping the Corporation Commission. I have been speaking to some of the power companies. They are potentially building another 0.5 gigawatt in new gas plants over the next year or over the next 5 years if we do not change the regulations that provide a regulatory, and it's really just an accounting subsidy to fossil fuels versus building new capacity that is clean, reliable, and is not subject to the out-of-state fossil fuel interest. As well, I want to do everything I can to help save democracy, and we have a real opportunity with our race to provide a pocketbook issue to a lot of people who say, Washington está muy lejos de aquí. And so if we need to provide a day-to-day thing where every month people are seeing the impacts of their votes on their pocketbooks, this is where the ACC comes in. And if those folks are going to vote for us, they're damn well going to vote for Gallego and Biden-Harris, and we can send two true Democrats to Washington for the first time since 1952, and we can keep the White House blue. Yeah, and with that, I'd rather hear the questions from the audience and get a sense of what y'all are concerned about. I did see a question in the chat. I dropped in the links for everybody's E-Qual, as well as links to Jonathan and Yelenia's $5 donation page so they can qualify for clean elections. I'm running traditionally, so I also put in my link for Act Blue, but it's more important that we get my teammates qualified for clean elections first, and that we get everybody qualified on the ballot. I just hit 4,000 literally like a couple of minutes ago. I think Yelenia, you're at like 4,400. And Jonathan, you're basically qualified at this point, but we want to get you 100% on E-Qual, right?
That's the goal.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's start off with one of the more obvious questions, but one that a lot of Arizonans just don't know the answer to. What does the Arizona Corporation Commission do for Arizona and for voters? Anybody can take that.
I can start and then you guys can add. So I, as someone, and many immigrants and dreamers use this as, this is a first tool that you go to when you start your business or nonprofit. So the Arizona Corporation Commission, not only does it regulate utilities, so we're talking about railroad, telecommunications, and non-municipal water, it also is the first avenue, the first portal that you enter when you start a business. So that is one of the, I'm not going to say it's a frustration, but it is a concern of mine as someone who has been a small business owner and who works with many nonprofits in the state. And Arizona, I believe this was true 5 years ago. I don't know if it's true now, but I'm sure it still is. We were the second state with the most nonprofits in the country. So everything goes through our Arizona Corporation Commission. And I think one thing that I have heard from many people when I'm talking to our community is that they're very frustrated with the system, and they would like a better streamlined process to, sign up for whether they're registering their nonprofit, their small business. That is a frustration that I continue to hear over and over, that it needs to be improved. And Jonathan, Josh, you guys can add about.
Yeah, so in addition to registering businesses and registering nonprofits, usually when you hear about the commission, like in the news, it's for issues related to the utility companies. So if you have APS, TEP, Southwest Gas, if you're in rural areas and have private water, those are all essentially monopolies. You don't have a choice of who you buy those services from. You don't really have, there's no competition for your business. And so the Corporation Commission was started way back when Arizona became a state in 1912. It was actually a pretty progressive idea at the time of having an elected body oversee these monopolies and decide what they're allowed to charge their customers, decide what kind of services they're allowed to provide, and to verify that they're actually providing good quality services. And so that, in 1912, their primary concern was the railroad monopolies, but now it's primarily our utility monopolies. So power, if you're in an area with private water, those are the big ones. And so if you have APS, which I doubt many of you do, but if there's any APS customers out there, you're going to see a raise in your next bill, somewhere at least 8%, could be as high as 12 or 15%. And that's only because the current commission voted to approve APS's request to raise their prices. And the current commission is 4 Republicans, 1 Democrat. And wouldn't you know, we lost that vote 4-1, strictly party lines. So that's why it's so important that we not only get Democratic commissioners elected, but we actually take a majority, so we can better control these decisions that are being made for us.
And the final thing that the Corporation Commission does is it sets the broad policy about how these public service corporations are going to be operating in our state. So one of the great examples is that, or not a great example, but a poor use of power by the commission is we have currently one of the lowest rural broadband rates in the country. And the telecoms are overseen by the Corporation Commission, and there's plenty of federal money for that, but they need to be given a statutory and a regulatory nudge to do that. I don't know if anyone's ever tried to get Cox to proactively do anything in this state. So unless we give them that nudge, they're not going to do it. Even if the money is there and they're going to make money, they're just not that sort of corporation. We also have an opportunity to potentially bring back passenger rail on a regular basis to the state. But that, again, you need to have the Federal Railway Administration, the Arizona Corporation Commission, and the broader state government, as well as the municipalities that would be getting passenger rail to be doing that intercity passenger rail to be working together. And currently we have a hostile legislature, but we also have a hostile Corporation Commission. And then the final thing is that people might not know Arizona had one of the most forward-thinking clean energy transition plans in the entire country. It was a bipartisan plan for a 2050 transition to 100% clean carbon-free energy, and Arizona obviously is a perfect state for solar, storage, wind, nuclear, and over the last 14 months, since the MAGA majority took over the Corporation Commission, they systematically dismantled our 2050 clean energy transition plan over the objections of the utilities in this state. And so we have an opportunity to work together with the utilities, with consumer advocates, with the federal government and the state government to get Arizona back on track, but only if we flip the Corporation Commission this fall.
Absolutely. So what is it that, well, first of all, let me ask, are you all running kind of as a team? Is that the idea?
Yes, so Jonathan and I were running clean, and Joshua's running traditional, and we are all working together because we know that we are the three Democrats and we need, it's the entire state. Like, there's no way we can cover it on our own. So we've been working together, collaborating, and trying to, cover the areas that we can all cover within, our abilities. And we are running together in the sense that we are coordinating everything together as we have today. But we obviously have different campaigns, there are different rules. Joshua's running traditional, so there are different rules that apply for him than apply for Jonathan and I, since we are running clean and there are stricter rules for us. So yes, in essence, we are working together in a team, and if there's clarification from them, feel free to do that, but we are trying to coordinate as much as possible because we know it's important for us. There are 3 seats open for 3 of us to win, and we have the opportunity to do so, and it's going to take every single person, every Democrat and their friends to get us, the 3 wins.
And so just to follow on with that, as because we've uncharacteristically for Democrats, we have our act together and we have 3 candidates for 3 spots. As soon as the filing and the verification happens in early April, we're shifting right into the general election mode. We are lucky not to have the clown car primary that the Republicans have, where I don't know if people have been following. I know it's like deep into the weeds. The Republican primary for the Arizona Corporation Commission, it's pretty deep in the weeds, but the current commissioner who's running for re-election, the only one, Leah Marquez Peterson from Tucson, was not endorsed by any of her colleagues, any of the Republican colleagues on the Corporation Commission. So I think we're ready to switch right into general election mode, even though we don't know who our opponents will be at that point.
Yeah. It seems to me that there are 3 seats up, but one of them is our current Democratic commissioner, Anna Tovar, who's departing. So we're hoping to retain that seat. And the two others are Leah Marquez Peterson's Peterson Marquez's seat. And she is running for re-election. And then Jim O'Connor's seat is also up, and apparently he's not running for re-election. But there are, I count 5 other Republican candidates in the primary for that. So 2 of them, well, 3 of them together with presumably Leah Peterson Marquez, although apparently maybe that's not even certain, will emerge from that primary. But I'd like to hear sort of your guys' vision for what the Arizona Corporation Commission with a Democratic majority and possibly a Democratic legislature can do for Arizona consumers and Arizona citizens. Whoever wants to lead on that.
Yeah, so I'll start by saying that, yeah, we have this amazing opportunity. We are so close this election cycle to not only taking the Corporation Commission, but taking the state legislature. Both houses were just 1 seat away. We already have a Democratic governor. So if we can pull this off this election cycle, Arizona will no longer, it might be purple voting wise, but governance wise, it will be blue. And, I think Joshua and Alenia and myself, we all have different priorities and, different areas of expertise that we hope to bring to the commission. But I think the only way we actually can accomplish all that in a reasonable amount of time is to have those majorities. And, for me, I think the easiest and most impactful things we could do quickly is net metering. So again, probably very few of you are EPS customers, but I'm guessing a lot of TEP customers. But yeah, especially with APS, when you have solar on your home and you put excess power back onto the grid during peak hours, APS has to pay you for that power. They have to pay you at a very reduced rate. And there are currently hearings open at the commission to reduce that rate even more. It's currently about 6 cents a kilowatt hour. Some commissioners have openly said they want to see it at 0. They basically want to give your excess power to APS or TEP for free. And I think, I don't think they're going to get it to 0 before their term ends, but I think they're going to do their best to reduce it. And so if we have that majority on the commission, I think that's something we can very quickly undo and even improve upon, really to encourage people and give them an incentive to move to solar and to move to a more distributed grid that makes everything more reliable and more robust.
Well, one thing that I will say as someone who has ran for many seats that are at the bottom of the ballot and no one really knows about, especially my community, there's a lot of education that needs to happen. Sometimes, well, to start off, people don't really know what, and this isn't just Latinos. A lot of my friends who are educated, they don't know what the Arizona Corporation Commission is. Mm-hmm. And I think the first thing that I did when I was elected to the Water Conservation Board was ensure that this information, not only for the website, is language accessible, not just in Spanish, because we have, at least when I served in school district, there were over 97 languages spoken in that small school district. So I know that we have people from all over the world. So we need to make the information for our website and for our community accessible in all languages and all formats. And then as far as, creating access and education about what we actually do, because I think it's so important. I know as someone who represents a community who will often struggle, I'm not going to say that we don't usually own electric vehicles. I'm not going to generalize for a population, but I do know that our community is often the one who never has access to the information about why is it important to have a electric vehicle, and how costly is it to purchase a charger. And I think we need to work on incentives and energy efficient appliances and weatherization upgrades and smart thermostats, and just start with the small things, because those are the things that my community can do right away, and all communities, right? Not just Latinos, but those are the kind of things, the programs, incentives that we can make actionable right away. And then I think a lot of the work that I want to focus on top of the work that my colleagues want to do, is education, because most of the community is unaware of what the commission does. And then when we do it, they never have access to these information for the incentives and programs and everything that's happening, because they're usually unaware that this commission even exists.
Joshua, you
And
want to?
yeah, and for me, we have the potential to have the first quad. People have heard about trifectas, where one party controls the state house and the state senate and the gubernatorial race. The Arizona Corporation Commission is actually constitutionally co-equal to both the governor and the legislature. And this is we have a potential for having a quadfecta for the first time since the New Deal days, and a quadfecta with a administration in Washington, if we can flip 2 congressional seats, which I think our race can also help do, 2 or even 3 congressional seats. If we have a favorable administration in Washington, we keep the White House blue. We've got Katie in the governor's office, and we have control over both the state house, state legislature, and the corporation commission. We have a chance to, this vision that we've been talking about of an equitable future forward economy for our state. We can bring that together. We can make that vision a reality by having people actually in these positions that are interested in governance, actually interested in doing the jobs that our state and federal constitution demands of us. So, I mean, the first thing is we had a bipartisan transition plan, a 2050 transition plan to 100% clean energy. Clean energy has only gotten cheaper since then. What we call the price lines, the levelized cost of energy. So not just the initial capital cost of the plant, whether it's a solar farm or a gas plant, but the cost of that electricity throughout the life of that asset. The cost of clean energy has been cheaper for 4 or 5 years now. There are federal funds to help the transition, to help the rural communities that are moving away from being a coal plant city or a gas plant city, to help the communities that have perhaps mining or other extractive industries. And if we have a corporation commission that's forward thinking, we have a governor that can actually get directors into the Department of Energy, the Department of Land Management, instead of these acting directors, because we have a state senate that's willing to do its constitutional duty. We can make this transition, and we can show how a small d democratic system with a free market economy, with a government that's actually interested in doing its job, can address these existential issues.
And I'll just add in really quick on something Alenia said. You know, education is such a huge part of running for this office. You know, I was just at an event earlier today in Peoria where I talked alongside Tyler Camp, who's running for Maricopa County Sheriff, and everyone in the room knows what the sheriff does. No one in the room knew what the Corporation Commission does. And arguably, the commission affects their lives on a day-to-day basis more than the sheriff's department does. You know, it affects their water, it affects their energy. And so we can't do this on our own. You know, we need Democrats, all the Democrats, and now you guys are some of them, who understand what the commission is, to help us communicate that message. Because we've seen in past elections that the Democrats, unfortunately, seem to drop off. When they get that far down the ballot. They don't know what the commission is, so they don't want to vote for it and make a bad decision. But, you know, let people know they can trust their party. You know, we've nominated or will be nominating 3 really great candidates for this position. And, you know, if you have a minute, just go look at us. And I think you'll think we're good for the job. And just to finish, I'll say, you know, if I had a dime for every time as I've been traveling around the state where a Democrat has told me, oh, I see that on my ballot, but I never vote for it because I don't own a business.
Yeah.
if I had a dime for every time someone said that, I don't think I'd have to run clean. Um, so we need to get, as a party, get the message out of how important the commission is, that it's more than just business and business regulation, and really get people, once you explain to them, even in just a minute or two, of how powerful and important the commission is, they tend to get really excited, and they're all for, you know, supporting all the Democratic candidates for the commission. It's just that 2 or 3 minutes of explanation. We need help, you know, with all of you sharing that among your networks.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, right now, obviously, in this phase of the campaign, the most important thing is that you actually get on the ballot, and there is a deadline for that looming. So that is the sort of the first hurdle that we have to clear. But once we've cleared that hurdle, okay, Dawn C has a question. She wants to know what does running clean mean, and why is it important? Maybe Yelena and John can answer that one.
Yeah, so in order to run clean, we have to, I guess, pledge that we're not going to take any outside money. And in order for us to qualify and to raise money, we're allowed to collect fives and then seed money. So that's up to $210 per person. And I think it's a total of 33,000, Jonathan, that we are able to raise. And then in exchange of raising all of the fives, we get, is it $250,000 for raising the fives? And it's a way of being transparent and accountable. There are some obligations that come with that. We have to participate in debates and forums, and I think it's a good way for candidates like me. I'm a single mother. I don't have a lot of money, and I, as you heard earlier, went to 20 different schools. Although I know a lot of people, I grew up in Title I school districts, and most of the people I went to school with are not wealthy. So yeah, I don't have a lot of contacts that have big pockets. So for me, it's a way for me to be able to run. Otherwise, this would be really hard because we're competing with Republicans who are going to be receiving, you know, large PAC checks and may have the relationships. And yeah, this is the only way that it can make it a little bit more equal for people like me to be able to run and have the resources, right?
Yeah, and so just to add, you know, Don, I saw Don had a question earlier in the chat. Yeah, so basically, when it comes down to it, there's 2 things we need from all of you tonight, if you haven't already done it. One is to go on E-Qual and digitally sign our nomination petitions. Without that, we can't get on the ballot. And then second is those $5 donations. Yeah, Alenia and I have to collect 1,500 $5 donations from across the state. And for each $5 donate, you know, once we qualify, each one of those $5 donations, the state turns into $225. So it's like almost like you're giving us a $225 donation, but it's only costing you $5. And I agree. I think it's, you know, at least for me, you know, I'm not in politics. You know, I've come from, like I said, you know, an academic engineering science background. You know, I don't have a whole lot of fundraising contacts built up. And so being able to run clean, you know, gives me an opportunity to raise enough money to run a statewide campaign without having to first try to build out a whole fundraising network. So it allows us to focus on the race, the issues, and getting our message across to people.
In terms of funding a statewide race like this, $250,000 can sound like a lot of money, but I mean, generally, how much does it cost to run a statewide race, specifically, well, in general, but also specifically for Arizona Corporation Commission? And what kind of money and what kind of sources of money have we seen in recent election cycles coming into these races? Does anybody want to address that?
Sure. I mean, so I'm the one candidate running traditionally, and part of the reason for that is between us, we estimate that this is going to cost around $4 million in this current environment to run a statewide race. Previously, you might have been able to get by with $400,000. But just to give you some context, in 2012, there was $28 million spent on the presidential race in Arizona. That is the combined spend between Romney and Obama in 2012. Purely on television advertisements alone, between between Biden, Trump, Gallego, and Lake, there are over $710 million in advertising reserves made for Arizona for 2024. The coordinated campaign is looking to spend north of $100 million on a field program this year. And so to participate in that program and to really target the precincts where our message, our pocketbook message, is going to have an impact, we're going to need to combine the approximately $400,000 from the two clean candidates and the $3.2 million that I'm looking to raise traditionally to make sure that we are paying living wages to folks to go out and help organize those communities. And we're doing this as sort of the icing on top, the 1%, 2% addition of what's we're looking at, trying to get somewhere between 1.6 and 1.8 million people to vote for Democrats this fall.
Yeah, it's a big lift and a lot of noise to cut through with those presidential and Senate races, battling it out on the airwaves to the tune of almost $1 billion. It's kind of nuts.
Oh, there'll be over $1 billion. That's just purely the ad buy reserves that have been made overtly. The dark money that's going to come in, the outside influence groups, we expect there to be somewhere between $1.1 and $1.2 billion spent between the presidential and the Senate races this fall, purely on television ads. So it might be time to be a cable cutter. Get off of cable TV, switch to streaming, and to get an ad blocker up. You're going to be seeing these ads on TV, on broadcast and cable TV. You're going to be seeing these ads on YouTube and on Hulu. So it's going to be a really intense period, and it's going to be starting in August. Normally, we wait until October to get carpet bombed by advertisements, but it's going to start in August this year. And to cut through that noise, we really need to get staff on the ground talking to the everyday working class and middle class voters who are the core of our base.
Absolutely.
And if I may add, in 2020, these are numbers that were provided to me on money that was spent in the ACC races for independent expenditures. So in 2022, Kennedy received $1,183,000 in supporting expenditures, $5,000 in opposing, and then Kubi received $780,000 supporting and expenditures and $20,692 opposing. And in 2020, Ana Tovar received $3 million supporting and 25,000 opposing. Mandel received $3,974,000 in supporting and didn't get any money spent against him. And Stanfield received $1,184,000 supporting. No money was spent against her, just Tovar. And Tovar was the one who won in that year. So just to give you an idea of what has happened in the past and what we are looking at, and how much money, how much money people are probably going to spend against us.
Now, when you say dark money, and i.e. independent expenditure, what does that mean? Can you explain that for people? And where is that money coming from? Who's spending all that money in these races?
Josh, do you want to answer that?
Sure. Well, so it's no longer going to be totally dark money. You're not going to have a group like Americans for Cute Puppies anymore, because we now, the top 3 donors have to be disclosed, but you are going to be getting things like Citizens for a Free Economy, which is a Koch brother group organized by Leo Leonard. They're already spending money in the Republican primary. And the Republicans have figured out that what they can do is they can run their candidates clean and just spend all the money through these dark groups, or give the money to the state party to spend in what's called a coordinated campaign expenditure. And they can take unlimited amounts of money from corporations and other groups and launder it through the party. And if it's done that way, then there doesn't have to be disclosure. It just has to say paid for by the Arizona Republican Party, endorsed by Myers and Thompson, for example, which is what happened in 2022, which is why they likely, even though we did win statewide, it's why they likely won the Corporation Commission race. And the other thing to stress is that the Republicans, we have brought more individual voters to this particular spot on the ballot for the last 8 cycles, but because our voters do not use all of their votes, that is the reason the Republicans have a 4-1 majority. And so our voters tend to vote for one. Some of our voters only tend to vote for one person. Somewhere between 16 and 20% of our voters only vote for one person. But the Republicans are very good at voting for 2 or 3 candidates depending on the year. And so that's the other thing that we need to help. Everyone in this room, I've been looking you up and seeing if you signed the petitions. So I've been checking online to see who signed. If you've already signed, the thing that you can do that can be incredibly helpful and that money can't buy is that if you take our links that we've been dropping into the chats and sending that to 3 to 5 of your trusted friends and family, you are doing it costs about $5 to get someone to click through a link on Meta, which is some of the ads that I've been pushing for folks on E-Qual, or to get them to on E-Qual. But if you send it, the chance of their clicking through is north of 90%. And so one of the things that we're going to be starting, and which you cannot put a price tag on, is it's relational organizing. So if you're on this call and you care about this race, we're looking for folks who want to come in and activate their personal networks and make sure that the people that you know know about this race, are registered to vote, get their ballot, make sure they vote for 3 Democrats, and they send their ballot in. And so if that's something that you're interested in, there will be a relational organizing portal starting in about 6 weeks that we're going to be trying to encourage people to get onto. And that's something that no matter how much money you have, you can't buy that sort of connection.
It's absolutely true. Let me just do a little bit of programming and homework here. Number one, the dark money initiative was mentioned that forces what was previously, unknown, Hitler for puppies or whatever you want to call yourself, to actually, reveal their top donors. We have a good conversation with Tom Collins, who is the executive director of Clean Money, of Clean Elections, I should say. That'll be up on our YouTube site very soon. We had a very in-depth conversation with him, especially about the dark money initiative and how it's going to affect elections here in Arizona. And secondly, I see that our president, Joe Danishevsky, has arrived. So I'm going to go ahead and add him to the spotlight and get him in here. Hi, Joe. How you doing?
Good, Mike. Thanks for hosting, and really want to congratulate the candidates for running and being articulate and passionate. Now we have to get all us voters mobilized. And I was just looking up, I thought I might be able to sign up on your petitions before I got the call, but I will. And I think we really have to promote the $5 too.
Yeah.
I've done that before for candidates, and I think we got to get the word out.
I am a passionate supporter of this crew of 3, and a passionate supporter of Democrats going after the Arizona Corporation Commission because it's doable. And I got to admit, I still haven't given Yelenia and John my $5. I'm going to do that before this call ends. So at this point,
one quick thing, Mike.
Yeah.
As the traditional funding candidate, they can get what's also known as seed money. So I'll be the person happy to ask for money for them. So please give the $5, but from their original seed donors, they can also collect an additional $205, $210 total. and they can spend that money and that's going to help. And so we're really trying to encourage people not just to give the $5, but if you can give an additional amount through their ActBlue links, which you can find on their websites, to provide that additional seed money.
All right, I will do the seed money as well.
Yeah, and I'll just add, that seed money, even if it's, it doesn't, obviously 210 or whatever would be wonderful. But anything helps, that's what keeps these campaigns rolling along. That's what's helping us get our signatures. That's what's helping us raise the fives. That's paying for, business cards and text messages, just to get things off the ground until we get that clean elections money. So, and the faster we get that clean elections money, the better. We don't want to wait till the last minute to get it. We want time to be able to use it effectively and efficiently. So.
All right. Don wants to know, do you want to let us know if we want you to send us a link to send out to our friends and family in 6 weeks? No, Don, I think no, we should do it now. I mean, absolutely now. If you can activate those personal networks now and send these links that are in the chat right now to 3 to 5 people, that would be awesome. Russell says if you go.
Wait. So what I'm thinking I need is something that says that I attended the Arizona Corporation Commission does this and this and that and that, and I think it would be great if you could do what I did, which is la 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 la, and here's the link. I mean, I can't remember all of the details that you just told me. Is there somebody on staff that can put together something that you can then send to all of the people in this chat and the next chat and the next chat and the next chat, so that, I mean, regularly I get stuff from the government wanting me to, send something to my the people in the government, can you do this, something like that?
That's a good point, Don. I will be sure to share today's participants list with the candidates. And also, if you need to keep the chat for reference, which is easy to do, in the meeting chat, you just hit the 3 little dots and choose Save Chat, and that will save it on your computer as a text file, so you can copy and paste directly out of that into your
But that's going to take me probably 2 hours to put together, where the people who are running know what I need. A couple of paragraphs that say, yeah.
We can provide you with an email. Obviously, the people you're going to send it to want to know what the Arizona Corporation Commission is.
Yeah.
So we have already an email that's drafted that we can send to you.
Yeah.
That you can just send, that will say, like, this is what the Arizona Corporation is, and these are the 3 candidates and the links. So we can provide that to you. If you can put your email in the chat, I can send it to you.
I'll share the participant list, and it'll have everybody's email address from this event.
Good. You should do that.
Yeah,
On and on.
that Lauren Kuby, who ran in 2022, sent to her supporters. And it's basically, it's ready to go, and you can just say, "Hi, Judy. I just want to encourage you to sign the E-Quals for these great candidates for this great race." And it's got the links. It's already formatted, and we can get that email to you. And
I can put it on my Facebook page, and people will pick it up. I mean, there's and I'm not the only person that could probably do that. Yeah.
I mean, we're asking everyone here to send it to 3 to 5 of your friends and family, but if you also want to share it on social media, that would be incredibly powerful.
Absolutely. Thanks for making it easy for everybody, Don. I appreciate that.
I'm impressed with what I've heard tonight.
And Don, something else Yelenia, maybe you can just send it with your email. But LD3 up here in the Phoenix metro area did a really nice short little video that just very plainly explains what the commission does. I think it's only 60 seconds or something like that. But that's something you can also post to social media really easily. That's what it's intended for. And part of that education aspect, letting people know what this office is and why it's important.
Lucky for me, most of my friends are Democrats. So, hey. Yeah, we'll go for it. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Don. So I got an email prior to this event from Judith, and she wanted to know what it is you're doing to run as a team, and what it is you're allowed to do as a team, given that one of you is running traditional and the other two are running clean.
So the things that we're doing together as a team are events like these. So we show up together when we can. A lot of times we don't, because if they are in person, only one of us shows up because there's so many events. We're like trying to spread out the events and have one person at each event, especially like if it's Southern Arizona, Joshua will show up to those. If it's anywhere in Maricopa County and North, Jonathan and I will show up. So those are the kind of things that we are allowed to do. We right now haven't talked about anything further because we are just trying to qualify. There's no point of talking about like, are we doing palm cards together? Are we doing like, as far as ads, I know that Jonathan and I are the only ones who can do that together since we're running clean, but we haven't talked anything further than showing up to events and collecting signatures and sharing information when we are at events, because we are trying to qualify and we are trying to make it. So that's what we're doing now. As far as the things that we can't do together, there's a lot of them. There's a lot of restrictions. We can't like put mailers together. So we can't do ads together. And that's my understanding. Joshua, correct me if I'm wrong, or Jonathan, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what we're doing right now.
Yeah, I mean, if we do a joint mailer, I mean, so what the Republicans are doing with their coordinated campaign contributions that they run through the party, that's something where Jonathan and Yelenia can raise money for the party, and it will be, say, paid for by the AZ Democratic Party, endorsed by Yelenia and Jonathan, and then it can have me as well, and I would just say paid for by Joshua for Arizona. So there are things where we can do, for example, mailers together, but we have to wait until we're officially nominees of the party, and where the money would go through the party for Yelenia and Jonathan, and then it would come out of my campaign account for myself. But obviously we can share strategy. We know where we're going to be targeting. We make one of the big things in this race is making sure that staff time and candidate time are deconflicted, and that we're showing up in the places where we're needed. And this is very much a race where people are going to remember that they talk to a staffer or they talk to a candidate, and that's something where it doesn't matter. If you're running clean or traditional, like that time is going to be golden, and that's something that we can we're allowed to deconflict where our calendars.
Already, like Yelenia was saying, just qualifying for the ballot is just the big push right now. And I think this last weekend was a great example of teamwork. Joshua was down at the Tucson Book Festival. He killed it when it came to collecting signatures. I was up in Prescott on Saturday and in Wickenburg on Sunday. Didn't do nearly as well on signatures, but was collecting for all three of us. And Alenia was at events in Phoenix. And so, yeah, we're only getting to this qualification point, together. And so I think, it would be so much harder if we were working 100% independently. But I think the teamwork has already shown itself and is going to get us all over the finish line.
Remember last year we had that Prop 412 TEP initiative on the ballot?
That was a city initiative, yeah.
Yeah, city initiative. And I didn't know if Joshua wanted to talk about that, because that's coming back. TEP is still moving forward with their power line project, which will eventually probably end up at the ACC.
Right.
So that's why I was just curious.
Yeah. So Caroline, what happened last year was the franchise agreement that TEP has running as the utility for Tucson, that was up for renewal. And that renewal is subject to a Democratic oversight, a small d Democratic oversight, voter oversight. So they attempted to do an early franchise renewal. That did not work. There will be another attempt to do a franchise renewal. And regardless of what happens, whether it's TEP, you're at the utility will not just go away, but they may lose their franchise with those assets. Obviously, the lines, the power, the power plants and such, those aren't going to go away. And there will be a franchisee. The question is who that's going to be. As for the question of the lines, that is also a very important issue where there is something called a siting committee. So the ACC, the Corporation Commission, doesn't directly do the power lines and the power plant placements. That's done by a siting committee where there are 11 members. The governor gets 1 seat. Each of the partisan leaders of the state house and the state senate each get so the minority and majority leaders each get a seat. So that's 5. And then the corporation commission gets 6 seats. And currently those seats are all those are all up in June of 2025. And there is an 8-3, a 9-3 Republican majority on the 9-2 Republican majority on the siting committee, because Ducey appointed, and then all 6 of the members from the Corporation Commission were appointed on straight party line votes. And so we'll have an opportunity in June of next year, once we take control of the commission, to really shape what the siting committee is like. One of the things that I'd like to see, and this isn't an official policy position, I haven't socialized it with my fellow future commissioners, but 3 of the 6 are for the general public. And I'd love to make sure that we get a seat that represents the tribal interests in our state. So we would probably need a statutory change to officially make it a tribal seat, but we could de facto have one of the public seats be set aside for tribal interests, because there's 3 for the public, there's 1 for industry, 1 for agriculture, and 1 for business, and 3 general public. And there's no reason why there shouldn't be 1 for the tribes. So that's something I'd like to see as a potential change on the siting committee.
I see Russell Lowe's is joining us. Russell, did you have any questions you wanted to ask?
One thing is about retail competition and community choice energy or community choice aggregation. Where would that fit into this whole process?
Perhaps somebody would care to explain what that is to begin with.
Well, community choice energy is the ability, well, it's the authorization of the state that starts the process. And that has to either be done by the Corporation Commission or the legislature. And then what would happen is a city or a combination of cities and counties could at any time form a CCE once the state authorizes that, either the ACC or the Arizona legislature. And then once that happens, the cities can enhance the speed of transition over to renewable energy. And that's what's happening elsewhere in the country. A bunch of community choice energy systems, cities and counties in 9 different states right now out of the 11 that have authorized for CCE. They are going quickly to renewable energies. And for example, the Bay Area CCE called Peninsula Clean Energy started in 2016, and they're scheduled to go 100% renewable by 2025. But there's also retail energy choices where you have a deregulated or partially deregulated utility industry. And so I'm wondering what the thoughts are on CCE and retail choice is what it's called for other options, smaller companies coming in and providing energy options for different classes of customers or customers in general.
Cool. Thanks for that question, Russell. Does anybody have any thoughts on that they want to share?
Just the one thought that the current model is failing our state, and that we need to look creatively as a commission and at looking at the various regulatory models that we can have. And I look forward, once I'm on the commission, to the models that are going to work best for Arizona.
Yeah, and I'll just echo that, that's kind of basically what I was going to say, that, as I was saying at the beginning of the meeting, the commission was a really progressive idea at its time, at its founding, of having an elected body oversee, and have power over the monopolies within the state. And I think, over the last 100 some years, we've gone from being a really progressive idea to essentially just being a rubber stamp for the utilities. And so I think, we need to rethink about getting back to the original purpose of the commission. And maybe there's alternative ways to do that, to reach the same effect that the founders of Arizona were intending.
Yeah, and I can add, this was one of the questions from the questionnaire for Sierra Club. And I know that it's in San Diego, they have been successful. And I do, once elected, we have to get there first, right? Like, we have to ensure that we actually get some Democrats elected before we can talk about it. But once elected, I think, having a thorough study, not only from the Arizona Corporation Commission, but with the legislative committee, and just, with all stakeholders, help us navigate what, the best CC framework would be. But definitely, being creative and looking forward to what that looks like.
Cool. Paula Schlussberg has her hand up. I think she has a question.
Well, it's Trace English, her partner.
Okay, Trace.
Hi. I'm a small residential property, a rental property owner, and I've been investigating the condition of our old houses for many years. Turns out that in Tucson, there are 200,000 homes built before 1980 and the first national energy efficiency standards. As a result of the technologies of the day, we've got 200,000 homes in Tucson that have soon-to-be failing sewer lines, soon-to-be failing water lines, and soon-to-be failing electrical wiring in about 50,000 of those 200,000 homes, because just the nature of the technologies. The cost of replacing those facilities is easily $30,000 for each house. And most people can't come up with a spare $30,000 to fix the sewer line or the electrical wires or the water line when they fail. One of the options that it's available is for the utilities to become banks, to actually loan people the money and then have it repaid over the life of the project through on-bill building systems. And I'm wondering if you have any thoughts as to what the role of the utility commission is going to be in encouraging non-governmental utilities to help their customers remain customers, and so be able to afford the cost of fixing those aging infrastructures.
So the model you're talking about is often referred to as PACE or CPACE. It's currently illegal.
No. PACE is something runs with the customer, and it's paid for, I believe, through property tax assessment or something.
It also can be run through the utilities bill, and that's similar to the model you're talking about, and that's currently illegal in Arizona. That would require the ACC to work together with the legislature. And that's something where, again, there are a lot of different models that could work, and we need to make sure that we have a corporation commission that's going to be forward thinking, and a legislature that's going to be working with us. One of the things that's really vital about why we need to have Democrats win this race is currently the Corporation Commission is talking about banning companies, including our utilities, from taking what they call "quote unquote" Green New Deal money or the Inflation Reduction Act money. There's a lot of federal money that is available for these sorts of upgrades, efficiency and replacement upgrades. And if the current Corporation Commission gets its way and is actually replaced by even more extreme people, then we could see a lot of these federal dollars never reaching Arizona, never reaching the customers. So our hope is that by having a pro-governance majority on the Corporation Commission of Democrats, having a favorable administration in Washington and in Phoenix, a lot of this can be done with public and private investment. But currently, the model that you're talking about would require a legislative, as well as some changes to the regulations.
Anyways, Trace, I was going to say this issue hits really close to home for me. My mom lives in what is now Central Phoenix, in my grandparents' former home that she inherited. It was built in 1959. And so it's now 65 years old, and she is going through that exact same process. She's in the process of getting a bank loan to, fix the sewer lines, rerun all the electrical in the house. It is so far out of code. The insulation in that house is practically non-existent. That was not a big issue for them back in 1959. So I think, that's sort of an all hands on deck kind of issue of, so many homes, not just in Tucson, but in Phoenix, and also especially the rural areas, are going to be suffering the same issue. And we have to have some sort of coordinated plan to address it, because it's a huge problem that, again, it's not the big sexy issue that's usually on the ballot, but it's something that's going to hit every single person right in their pocketbook, right where it hurts.
Yeah. Well, what you were talking about there, Joshua, with some people trying to restrict Arizonans from accepting IRA and Green New Deal money, that just seems nuts. I mean, what's the justification for that's being used to push back against taking federal money for improvements to Arizona's lives? That seems nuts to me.
Well, I mean, we've seen in the Midwest the last, couple months where governors are not accepting money to provide food for families in need. If you're looking for a justification, you might look for a really long time and not find anything. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I gotta say, I'm consistently surprised by how cruel some lawmakers can be. I mean, I just recently saw that the Arizona legislature passed through a work requirement for SNAP, which is going to be impacting a lot of people here in Arizona if God forbid, for some reason, the governor doesn't veto it, which I certainly expect that she would. But yeah, that's where the thinking is now, I guess, is let's punish our constituents. Does anybody else have questions they want to ask? If our three candidates would like to wind up with a final pitch and a final appeal, let's go ahead and start in the reverse order we started, which was Joshua Polachek. You went last. Why don't you go first?
Well, I see Sharon raised her hand. Do you have a quick question, Sharon?
I was at that Corporation Commission, and it shook me to my core, and how horrible is the only word I can say. When he shut down that meeting, made everybody nervous in the general public. We waited for the morning till he said 3 minutes, no, 2 minutes, 1 minute, no more general public unless you have something we haven't heard before. Went to the APS lawyers and let them repeat them all over with free time, and it was unbelievable. The public should come first, and that was interference. It was horrible, and it really got me feeling that I want to work hard to get you guys in, and I'm really impressed. So I wrote my statement, and I want to send it to all of you, and I've got a message that I tried to get included to prove, and especially and the Navajo Reservation, they get money from Price Anderson for Palo Verde, about $100 million per reactor. That's double taxation that they're paying on the rate increases. And he said something that nobody's heard before. I just sort of wanted to bring in John Wesley Powell, all the contamination that the nuclear industry has caused and left there. President Biden, thank God, stopped uranium mining $1 million around the Grand Canyon. This is pertinent. Why get these rate increases? They're already getting a lot of money. Price Anderson shouldn't exist. They're privately owned. They got it because they're too dangerous to operate. They couldn't get insured. And the government in 1957 said that we got to pay for it because they're dangerous to operate. No other private business functions that way. They would never get money because they're too dangerous to operate. And that's what they're still using. And that's why they should never get a penny in these rate increases. And most of the water is used by them, not cities. We're paying the higher water bills and electric bills, but they're using all the water. It's terrible for this state. And it has to be up what they've done to the Four Corners National Sacrifice Area. 40 years ago, my friend Cadney wrote this map, drew it when they started all the uranium. Now they're all 500 sites, completely abandoned, tons and tons and tons, 26,000 tons in Lake Powell. They buried in Lake Powell of uranium radioactive tailings. And at the Powell Memorial, ironic because he tried to stop them in 1892. All of this is unaccountable in the nuclear program that they have, and all that extra money shouldn't be given. So I'm just really very you're running.
I'm hearing you. A lot of the issues you raise, though, I get questions on my Facebook.
It's hard to clean up
about what I think about, Social Security or.
I know, but the Corporation Commission is in charge of all of this. How much they get to do this? How much they get to pollute? How much they get to take our water and make us pay for everything?
Yeah,
Can we get a response from the
SRP, SRP is not governed by the Corporation Commission. They're governed by their own board.
APS with their Palo Verde.
Well, Palo Verde is an SRP project, and they're the ones that are in control of that. That SRP election.
SRP, APS, not SRP.
Yeah, APS is the project manager for the Palo Verde Nuclear Generating Station. SRP is one of the participating utilities, but APS is the project manager.
Right, but who gets the underlying rate? Who builds it into their rate case? I believe it's SRP.
It's APS.
APS has to continue to. The APS was the first utility that went to get it included in the rate base. I was an expert witness opposing that and saying that they should be only able to provide 11% of what they invested in Palo Verde into the rate base because they had such massive overruns and cost.
Anyways, I think Jonathan put an important point as we wrap up, because I do want to respect people's time and want to make sure that Yeleni and Jonathan each get time. I will pledge to you that unlike Chairman O'Connor, who 2 weeks ago, when he was asked about what was in the rate case, said, "Oh, I didn't even read it. I just vote." And so I pledge to you that I will at least do the job, and I'm going to at least do my constitutional duty and make sure that I read and ensure that we're working to provide affordable, safe, and reliable public service companies for this state, and that we're going to have folks on that commission who are looking out for working class and middle class Arizonans. And with that, I want to, let's do it in reverse order and make sure everybody gets a chance before that we all turn to pumpkins.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. So as someone who's been serving Arizona for the past 7 years, I know that you have to do your job, which is come prepared and read. And that's something that I've, done, and I've earned the trust. Not only have I earned your trust with your children, which is sometimes, if you have them, like your most precious, beautiful thing in your life. And then I've earned your trust with our most precious natural resource, which is water. on the Central Arizona project, and I want to continue earning your trust with your support to help us get on the ballot for the Arizona Corporation Commission. And I will continue working hard for Arizonans, for this country that's given me every tool to succeed. And I want to continue being that voice for communities like the ones that I come from. So thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm grateful and honored to be here tonight.
Thank you, Linnea. John?
So I guess in closing, the only thing I'll add is that, you know, all three of us are really excited about this race. And I think we're really optimistic about what we can do in November. And I think, to reiterate from before, I think, you know, everyone here is obviously very passionate about this. I think you're also excited about this race. Just share that excitement and share that optimism, you know, with the people you know. That's how we're gonna win this race. And I think, you know, I forget if it was Joshua or Elenia earlier, you know, how many people we need to vote for us in order to win this. But I would bet money that at the end of the day, the margins are going to be pretty slim. So, you know, each person you reach out to, each person you talk to, and just inform about what the commission does and how important it is to vote for it is just huge. You know, Chris Mays won by, you know, what, not even 300 votes.
A landslide,
So,
absolutely.
right, yeah, you know, so every vote counts, you know,
yeah.
No matter what corner of the state you're in, even if you're in a deep red district, you know, those votes still count statewide, and we're going to need everyone on board, everyone on deck to do this. And I think, as we saw tonight, you know, I think there's a lot of really great things we can accomplish when we get there.
You got to deal with cleaning up some of that yellow dirt.
Yeah. Thank you for being with us, the three of you. John, Joshua, and Elenia, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for joining DGT. And of course, I will send you the participants list from this, and I will make sure to post in the notes on the YouTube version of this discussion links to your E-Qual and your clean elections links.
Hey everybody, it's Senator Mark Kelly. As all of you know, Arizona Democrats have had a lot of important wins over the last few years. We won 2 U.S. Senate races, and we delivered Arizona's electoral votes to President Biden and Vice President Harris. We elected Governor Katie Hobbs, Secretary of State Adrian Fontes, and Attorney General Chris Mays. Now, those elections were close, and our victories mattered. Arizona Democrats from the federal to the local level have delivered real results for our state on critical issues like combating climate change, lowering prescription drug costs, protecting the right to vote, and preventing more restrictions on abortion access. The Democrats of Greater Tucson offers the opportunity to hear from elected officials and candidates about that important work and the issues that matter to them. That information will be invaluable as Arizonans head to the polls. So this election cycle, whether you're signing up to knock doors, make phone calls, or joining the Democrats of Greater Tucson to hear from and speak to Democrats in our area, please know that your voice matters, and we need you on this team. Thank you.